everyone, it's Monica. Welcome back to Homeschool Voices. Today I'm very excited. I have an interview with a homeschool mom who is also single. Check it out. Oh, thank you so much for joining me today, Angela. I'm really excited to talk with you about how you make homeschooling work even though you're a single mom, because I know a lot of people want to homeschool but they don't feel like they can because they don't know how they're going to make the finances and the childcare basically work.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here. Thank you for having me, Monica. I was surprised to see that there was another homeschool mom out there making a video locally. So that's really cool to be local to you and be able to talk to you about this kind of thing.
I know. And we met for like 30 seconds the other day when we were
crossing. Yes.
In between things. That was cool. But yeah, thanks so much for coming on and telling us how you do it. So kind of just tell us your story about how you got into homeschooling, why, how many kids you have. Tell me everything.
Okay, I'll try to make it short. But basically, I have two kids, first of all. I have a boy and a girl. My daughter is 14. My son is 12.
Okay.
We've been doing this whole thing for 6.5 years. So almost 7 years. I've been single the whole time. And, growing up, I was a nanny, and I was a nanny mostly for a family who homeschooled. And so I was introduced to the idea of homeschooling at 13, and I just thought it was beautiful how the kids woke up and they just ate breakfast and their mom had like Bible time and stuff. It was just really cute, and it was very peaceful in the home. They lived in a beautiful city of California, and they lived on a lake as well, which was not something that everybody can do, but they just woke up to a very peaceful environment, and I loved that. And their learning was kid friendly, and I loved that too. And I always enjoyed being with kids, and I wanted a big family, and I didn't know what kind of family I would have, but I knew that I wanted to homeschool my kids after experiencing that with that family. So fast forward to getting married at 22, having my daughter, right, like we got pregnant so quickly, not knowing that I would even be able to have children because I was very sick at the time. And she was born at 23 weeks, my daughter, which is very early. And so her learning,
early, actually.
Yeah, she was a micro preemie, so she was about 1.5 pounds, and struggled, for the first 3 or 4 years just to stay alive. Her breathing was really bad, and her lungs weren't all the way developed when she was born. So there was a lot of challenges that she had. So when it came to education and learning, everything was a challenge for her, to say the least. Her development as far as social skills and everything was behind. So when I thought to homeschool early on, and I started her with that, I mean, the basic ABCs and stuff like that, she could sing the song, she could count to 10 or past 10. But once it got to conceptual things or anything outside of memorizing songs, she had no ability to understand that. So I knew I had to put her in a school program because I knew she needed more help than I could give her. And I was frustrated. I was very frustrated because I wanted to homeschool so bad. But then I was like, well, it's okay. I at least want to homeschool for middle school, because middle school is a really difficult time for kids. And I know that. And so maybe I'll just homeschool for middle school just to keep the kids home, away from all the crap that's out there, and then put them back in school for high school. That was my, and then she was in school, and then my son went to kindergarten, and I had them in charter schools in Arizona because we were living there at the time for like 4 years. And it just seemed like she was never understanding anything. She was kind of brushed to the side. It was like, well, she didn't finish this work, so here it is. They would just send home these packets of work, and she would have no clue what was going on. And when I would talk with the teacher, they would tell me she would just sit there and draw or stare off into space. Like, she never asked questions. She never spoke during class because she had a speech issue. She wasn't, her issue was auditory processing. I mean, there were all kinds of things going on that were preventing her from learning. And so we kept trying. We got the IEP. We did that whole thing. And then when we ended up moving back to California, which is an entirely other story, I put her in a school out here in our area. Should I leave that out, where we live? No, yes.
Oh, that's up to you.
Okay. Well, we moved to Santa Clarita, and I had her in a school out here. Her IEP was set, and things. She had a wonderful teacher, like a beautiful, wonderful teacher for her special day class. And what I noticed though was that she was bringing home a lot of the behaviors of the more severely autistic children. She was on the spectrum. She was definitely high functioning autistic, but she was a mimicker. So she would bring home all the behaviors that she was seeing from the more severely disabled kids, is the best way I can say that right now. And she also wasn't learning anything. So I kept asking her teachers and the IEP team, like, can we put her in more integrated situations so that she can learn healthier behaviors, so that she can get some of the conversations that are happening that with her other peers her age that are more typical. And I was hearing a lot of, yes, we will, let's do this, let's do that. So they put her in a little reading group and things of that nature, but she still needed to be pushed a little bit more. And I had been pushing her at home, just challenging her to do what was harder for her. And in their classroom, it was like, if she didn't want to do anything, it was like, okay, well, let's go to the resource center, and they'd play in the balls and ride the bikes. And it just felt like there were too many excuses for her. And so I actually called an IEP meeting, and I just said, I'm really tired of like seeing this regression and not seeing her progress. And I just need to know like what's going on. Why can't we integrate her more? Why can't she be a part of the day in the regular classroom and part of the day with you guys? And we had this meeting with like a psychologist or psychiatrist or something. And she started talking in very technical terms and throwing out these different words. And here's what I caught during this meeting, because I was very clear, like, I want my daughter to have more of a challenge. Like, she's able to do some of these things that in class she's saying, I don't want to do, and then you let her not do it. She needs to be pushed. And if she's not going to be pushed here, then I need to find something else for her. And the lady ended up saying something like along the lines of like, according to the DSM-4/5, whatever, blah, 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 da-da-da-da funding and da-da-da-da governmental and da-da-da-da minor or minority and da-da-da-da blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, lots of words, but are you saying that because my daughter is half Black that you get more money as a school because she's considered a minority as long as she stays in the special day class? Because there was only one other minority who was full African American in the classroom. So my daughter was classified as a minority, and there was more funding, is what I was understanding. So I repeated that as to like reiterate, like, is this what you're saying? And the woman was like, well, ma'am, we don't like to say, because I said, so is that what you're saying? Because my daughter is half Black, that you're keeping her in this environment because the school gets more money if she stays here longer in the day than if she goes to is that what you're saying? And she was like, well, ma'am, we don't put it in terms like that. It's just, and I said, oh no.
Oh, I bet you don't put it in terms like that. Of course you don't.
Oh my gosh. I'm like, okay, so.
I can't believe you said that. That's awesome.
I was like, you are kidding me, right? I'm like, you said enough for me to know that it's time for me to homeschool my child, because if this is what's going to follow her, her whole life, she's never going to get anywhere. Yeah. And I know that it's going to be hard, but we're going to figure this out. And the teacher was so sweet. She was just like, oh, Angela, please just let us talk this through. You're a single mom. We really want to be there for you. We know how hard this is. Homeschooling would not be the answer for her. She'll lose I'm like, she was saying she'll lose all her social cues. And I'm like, hold on a second. She has no social cues.
Right?
Yeah, she has no social cues. She's actually brought home several behaviors that would make her look crazy in front of other children. So no, she's not going to lose social cues. She's going to gain social cues because I'm going to find a way to put her in healthy environments. Right now, she's in an environment where she's starting to STEM more. She's starting to do all these tics and stuff that she wasn't doing before because I kind of helped her work out of them with therapies and stuff. And so anyway, I left that meeting and I looked very hard for programs that would work for her. And I found Classical Conversations, which is the first community we went to. And I knew that it would be a benefit for my son as well. So I just pulled him out as well. And he had just finished first grade. So that was why we decided to homeschool. And I just thought, you know, if this is what it's going to be like for her, then I'm going to pull her out. And then when I saw the program, CC, I thought, well, this would be great for my son too, because he had started losing his excitement for learning. Like he, in kindergarten, it was just gung ho. He loved it so much and it was so much fun. And then first grade was when it really got to be like constant testing and this and that and like speed math and all these things that can be fun if they're done fun, but everybody's competing against everybody.
You know, the bizarre thing is it's so intense and I don't see the benefit. I look at these kids, where's their math skills?
Yeah.
Where's their writing skill? I just don't see it. I'm not impressed with what I see, yet somehow they're so intense, but they don't seem to get any results out of it.
Exactly.
Maybe it's because they're killing the fun. I mean, I don't know.
Kids are created to learn in the way their brains are developing. And if you're stuffing stuff down when their brains aren't even ready to receive that information, all you're doing is stressing them out, which puts them in a mode to not be able to understand, one, and two, want to learn. So
retain.
Yeah.
Retain information when you're stressed out. It's funny because when I say that, it's not like everything is a delightful good time all the time in our homeschool, but it just seems like they just go a little crazy sometimes in public schools. They just make kids miserable.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
They do. And I mean, right away, I saw a difference in both my kids. They just obviously they enjoyed being home, but they enjoyed the fun opportunities that we had, the field trips that we would do, because at that age, a lot of it should just be field trips outside, going to the store with you, watching you buy groceries and like, you know, feel this fruit. This is how it's just life skills. It's fun stuff. And then you throw math in there because they're helping you bake something, or, you know, those are the things that happen at that age. And then as they get older, you put some more things in that are for their developmental, that are appropriate to their developmental stage.
Yeah.
And my daughter, it took her until she was about, I don't know, maybe 10, but she had lost a lot of reading skills in school and she gained them back almost immediately. It wasn't until she was 10 though that she could like really fluently read. Wow. And now she's way better in reading comprehension. It's still not totally there because she struggles to keep her focus on what she's reading, but she's not being forced to meet a deadline. And when
she lost reading skills in school?
Oh, she absolutely lost reading. So when I had her at home, there was a lot of, you know, like showing her a word. So it was more memorization. She would see the word and she would know as a dog, right? Something like that. But when she went into the school environment, because there was all this like, I don't want to do it. Okay, you don't have to, let's go to the resource room. She wasn't able to read fluently like dog.
Yeah.
It just
kind of just forgot some things she learned, basically.
Yes. And that's what happens even now. If we do not constantly go over things that are not glued in there, it's like we never talked about it. That's the way her brain works right now, and we're really working to exercise that out. But she has to be constantly doing the same thing for a long time to make it glued. So addition facts are now glued, and we're grateful for that.
Yeah.
And we're working on other facts, but it's hard. And for her to be in an environment where they're like, no, it's okay, it didn't work for her. She needed to be doing that consistently. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
In the most fun way I could make possible. Not always fun, but you know. So that's the answer to that question. Why?
Did you, when you decided to homeschool, did you sign up with a charter?
In the beginning, I think we did. I think I had a lot of people that I ran into that were homeschool moms when I was making this decision. It was so weird. This is how I knew it was like meant to be.
Okay.
Because I kept randomly meeting either homeschooled students who would be talking, and then I'd speak with them like, you're a homeschooler? Like, what do you think about it? Blah, blah, blah. Or moms in the store. And so those moms that I met, I would call and I would ask questions too. So I found out about the charter system and how everything works. So I did classical conversations, and I think I was also with Sky Mountain at the time. So we had funds to get curriculum and do fun things like music lessons and stuff like that. I think we started with that in the first year.
And how did you like Sky Mountain? How was that?
I loved Sky Mountain. I loved we had 2 teachers by the time we finished with Sky Mountain, but I loved the community. There were a lot of community opportunities, like field trips and stuff where you would meet at locations and go enjoy a field trip or a park day. I loved how our teacher was very flexible with what we were turning in because she knew like where their levels were at, and it wasn't like she needs to be right here. Like, this is where she needs to be. So I need to give you all of this for her to do. It was like, okay, this is where she's at. That's fine. Just let me have this. So I love the patience and the flexibility of Sky Mountain. It was great. And the funds were not as high as other places, but where we were at in life at the time, it was enough.
And as far as what you had to turn in, so right now I'm with iLead and I have to turn in one sample for each
subject.
That's the word I'm looking for. I mommy brain my kids. I don't know how long I can claim mommy brain. My kids are kind of old now.
But. I know. No, I think it's destroyed forever. It's okay.
So, that's what we have to do. Was it the same for you, or did you just have to turn in one sample? Some of these charters I'm learning, they just have to turn in one sample. So this month you just have to turn in one math sample, and next month
yeah,
a language arts sample, which is
we had to turn in. I can't remember. I think it was only one thing every time we met, like one thing. And then as they got older, like when we got our second teacher, I think it was one thing per subject.
Okay.
One thing for reading and language arts and math. And then history didn't have to happen as often. History and science didn't have to happen as often. Something like that.
We're young too.
But they were younger. Nowadays, it's something for every subject.
Yeah. So are you with the charter now?
We are with Inspire, Blue Ridge. They changed their name to Blue Ridge, but we're with Inspire. And I think for high school, for my daughter, I won't be with the charter, which will be really challenging financially. But because of where she's at and the high school requirements, I think she's in a much better place developmentally and learning wise, where she can learn things, like she can keep track and learn things. She's learning now I'm using the wrong word. She's understanding and comprehending the things that she's learning. Conceptual things are actually being understood now. It's much better. It's like, wow, we can actually move on from addition and subtraction to multiplication and division. Hallelujah. Like finally, it just clicked. It's like a light bulb went off and it's working. But where high schoolers are at and where ninth graders are expected to be, and every year where you're expected to be, according to the charter and the public school system, it's not going to work for her right now. Mm-hmm. And I did have a goal for her to be able to do high school and college at the same time, in case she decided she wanted to go to a 4-year university for animal science or whatever. But I just don't know if that's going to work for her, and I don't push my kids to want to go to college because I think that's a whole waste of money unless you know exactly what you're going to do and if it needs a degree.
I agree.
Yeah. So for me, it's more like when you get to be done with high school, I think you should either travel the world or if you know what you want to do, then start pursuing that. If you want to be an entrepreneur, let's, we work on an entrepreneurial basis. Like, here's how we're going to learn. We're going to learn your finances. We're going to learn how to run your finances. We're going to learn business. And then you figure out what you want to do as we go. But kids already are innately, I think they come with some certain passions and they just start to develop as they get older. And so I think we should always pour into those passions and not suppress them.
Yeah. And what about the finances? So like I was saying in the beginning, a lot of people just don't know how they're going to pay the bills, basically, if they're homeschooling, but they're single, and when do they work? So can you kind of speak to that a little bit?
It's really hard, like really, really hard. And I don't really know how we make it, but we do. And I think it's because I'm called to do this. if I wasn't called to do this, then I wouldn't be doing it. So because I'm called to do it, it just works out. But when we're talking about practical, logistical things, I work around their homeschool. When they were younger, I had more, so this is real authentic talk, okay? When they were younger, I had Social Security benefits because I've had kidney failure and lupus. And so I got a kidney transplant back in 2012, and I kept getting Social Security benefits for time after that. And it wasn't until like 2 years ago when those benefits ended because my kidney transplant time period ended. So I no longer have Social Security benefits and I no longer have Medicare, which is a huge blow to my financial situation and me having great insurance. But before that, I had that income coming in that helped me provide for them. So I could work very minimally and I didn't have to worry as much. I also had child support back then. And that was more regular as well. So in our life now, I don't have the benefits. I get very, very minimal support. And so it's like 90% on me.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like a lot of the time, and hopefully that'll change this year. I don't know. Maybe it'll be a better year. It looks like it could be. But anyway, I have had to choose jobs that would allow me to be present for my kids.
And what kind of jobs have you had then?
I started out with caregiver jobs where I was on call or hired to work with someone for certain hours a day. And I would have, Amaya has respite care, and that's care for parents whose children have special needs, to give you like time to get out of the house and time to work or whatever. And so that person could also babysit your other children if you had like one in some cases. Mm-hmm. And so that's how I got that care. I also had babysitters I would have come in for the time I would go do caregiving. But I've done caregiving. I did TaskRabbit type jobs. I did
real quick before I forget, how'd you get the respite care? So, I mean, because I'm sure a lot of people are in a similar situation. They would like to know. I've never heard of that.
Yeah. So respite care is through the city or the county. There's a regional center in every county. So where we are right now, we have the North Los Angeles Regional Center. And for those who have children with special needs, you can apply with the regional center to be covered by them. Okay. And in that, you receive benefits, whether it's speech therapy, behavior therapy, occupational therapy, physical therapy, respite care, in-home therapy, like in-home care, all these different things you have access to depending on your diagnoses for your child. Because she's high functioning autistic, diagnosed, she has respite care, and she's grown out of her OT, her PT, her BT, behavior therapy. Like, she's grown out of those because we've worked really hard with therapies and stuff. And I'm not, I'm just one of those moms that are like, we can do this. We're going to work hard. We're going to do our best. And she's responded well to it. So that's how I got respite care, was through that. And I still have that here, even though she's 14, because she's still in that system, and she still has things that she's not doing yet that some 14-year-olds are. So we still have that there. So that's how we have respite care.
And what other job? And you were talking, because I kind of interrupted you a little, but I didn't want to forget. So, but what other kind of jobs? You're talking about caregiver jobs and
lots of side jobs. I did do babysitting. I've kind of done it all. Anything that you can imagine, like cleaning someone's house, washing a car, anything that you can imagine. A church that we were at the time, and really just churches around the valley would have job postings, and I would go look at them and then get whatever job I could get that either they could come with me to, or I could just leave them for a couple hours. As things got harder and I lost funds that were coming my way, I had to get more hours of work and higher paying jobs. And I happened to get a job at Real Life Church, and that's here in Valencia. And I was working there as their production coordinator on contract. And so I was there for like 2.5 years, and the kids could come with me to that.
Oh,
They
nice.
would hang out, and I worked there every weekend and Thursday nights. And that really helped me financially. And through that job, I was able to get another production job through NBC because they were filming something at our church. And that started the snowball of getting work in production again.
Okay.
And film production was always a passion of mine. I always wanted to be the next Oprah, like talk show hosting, producing movies, all of it, all of that. And it started kind of opening up those doors, and that started happening. And so now financially, I've always worked multiple jobs, and right now I teach at Huckleberry. That started a few years ago when I found Huckleberry. It was back in our very first year of homeschooling, but doing classical conversations and doing Huckleberry was too much for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I was in the first year of trying to figure out how to homeschool 2 kids that were actually in like learning grades. And so I dropped Huckleberry and kept CC for a couple of years, and then came back to Huckleberry and wasn't doing CC. And coming into Huckleberry, I came in with a charter, and I came in teaching.
Okay.
So the teaching allowed me to work, but have my children with me and have them be there when I was teaching a class, even if they didn't have a class. It just all worked out.
Yeah.
And I would work there. I worked at T-Mobile at the same time as teaching. And then I worked at Target at the same time as teaching. Then I was doing teaching and Vivint and Target and teaching online for Chinese students. So you can teach English to students online through VIP Kid. And so I was doing that like early in the morning, over like in the middle of the night.
How much money can you make with that job?
You can make up to $1,800 a month or more if you work it right. It's a lot of hours in the middle of the night, and you wake up because you're doing their morning.
Yeah.
It's your night, and so it's like between 2 and 6 in the morning.
Wow.
And you're teaching, and then you're getting up to go to your other job. So that's what I was doing. I was teaching from 2 to 6, and then I was getting up to teach at Huckleberry, and then I was going to T-Mobile or Target at night. And then I was doing it all over again. So that's how I was getting by. And then of course there's people, community, like who just drop off groceries at your door or show you a pantry that you can go to, show up and bring clothes for your kids, or Christmas time, you didn't even know that a family adopted you and they show up with presents. It's like, we were just blessed. And that's what I mean by like, if you're called to do something, I believe God will get you right through it. He'll cover you, he'll provide. And I trust in that. He's my husband. He's got to be like, he's the form of a husband in my life. He's my kids, dad. Like, he's just there for us. And we don't have any other way to depend on anything. We just have that. And even though we have amazing people in our lives, it's hard for me to ask for help. So God just brings the help, and he's also humbling me in the meantime and helping me learn how to ask when it gets really bad. And so, yeah, we've just been miraculously taken care of. And in some ways, it's just been me hustling like a mad woman, and then trying to figure out where to homeschool in that time frame.
And so when you're doing these jobs in the various places that you're working, you use the respite care and just in babysitters?
Right. I was. Now, at one point we were living with a friend of mine. She was a single mom as well, and we were roommates together.
That's really smart, actually.
Yes. And if I could do it again, I think I would. It just depends on who it is. Her kids were in Christian school at the time, and I was homeschooling. So there were times when I would go to work, whether it was a production job overnight, like working as a PA on a show, and she would just be home with her kids sleeping, and I would get home as they were getting ready for school. So I would be home with my kids by the time she left. And then we would do our whole day. Yeah. So, and then when I wasn't living with her, we were homeless for about 8 months, and we lived with another homeschool family that we had met through classical conversations. And so they kept my kids when I went to work. And at that time I was working at T-Mobile and Target, I believe. And so I would just leave my kids there, go work, and come back. And that was when they were living in Frazier Park. So it was a commute, but we were doing that. Then we lived with another friend, one of my best friends in Palmdale. So we were doing that whole life. We were living in their trailer. It was like, it's just people. I ended up not having to use a babysitter as much because there were just people there. And I would just do something for them to pay for. It was like bartering in a way, but not really. It was kind
And
of
this
just
is living in California, one of the most expensive states in the country, too.
yeah, sometimes I wonder why we're still here. But I mean, the current situation is I work, I do YouTube, I work Vivint Solar, so I knock on doors telling people about a way to get solar without paying for it.
Has that been going well for you as far as a job and income?
It's commission only, so it's really, 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 really hard. And I'm not a salesperson, so it's not easy at all. You get a lot of doors slammed in your face. But last year when I worked it and I first started working it, that money that I made before I quit it carried me through the whole summer.
Wow.
So that was great. And then but I quit it because it was just so mentally draining, and I couldn't handle it really. I literally could not handle it. I didn't feel like I could handle it. I recently came back to see if I could try again, and I had more growth mentally, and so I've been doing that again, and it's not been successful yet, but and I don't know that it's right that I stay there. I don't know. I believe that when you put in the time into your business, you will see results. And I'm not doing that because I'm still trying to survive, and I need to find a way to survive while pouring into the business. So I'm now transitioning into that. But I teach, I do the Vivint, and then I still am working production jobs. So I get movie jobs. I have 2 coming up, and those are really hard because I draw up a calendar and I schedule where my kids can go, because they're old enough to be home, but you don't want to leave kids that are preteens and teen home by themselves for that many hours a day. It's too much. And they need to eat, and yeah, so I just set up a whole schedule where they can go here for a few hours, here for a few hours, or here for the whole day. And it's just a bunch of friends, and like really close friends that are like family that help me with that. And our homeschool community, lots of that.
Yeah,
So,
that's what I'm hearing too. Is I did a couple videos with homeschool moms who work, and that was a big thing, is finding your community and getting help basically, and then offering help when you can offer help. And
yeah, it's important to be willing and open to have people in your life that can help you. It's hard to humble yourself to do that. You want to be able to do everything on your own. And I think we have to remember as moms and women that we are super women without having to do it on our own. Like, we're still super women. And I think sometimes in our minds we think, no, I shouldn't need help. I should just be able to do it by myself because these are my kids and da da da. And we can get in our heads that way. But these kids are alive because we feed them. They're alive because we love them. They're growing into become adults because we nurture them. Like, that's superwoman enough. We don't need to hide from our needs. We don't need to ignore our needs. And the need sometimes is just to have people around, just honest, true people that we can trust to help us with our kids. And that village is serious. I wouldn't be this far into homeschooling if it wasn't for the owner of Huckleberry, Stephanie. I have almost jumped off cliffs many a time. Another family, the Kiefer family, they homeschooled all their kids, and they moved me off the ledge several times. Like, I'm telling you, it is literally a community of people that have kept me going and that have kept me from putting my kids back in school, because every day you're reevaluating, especially when you're single and the financial struggle is so real. The last 3 months or 2 months, my rent has barely gotten paid. It got paid like at the 18th of the month when they had already wanted to go legal. They just were like, we understand, we know you've never not paid your rent, but like, there are times when you literally have no clue what you're going to do. And your friends are Instacarting you groceries. Because you're so embarrassed and you don't want to tell anybody, because you're just like, you're looking at your age and you're like, I should have it more together. Like, why isn't my life more together? Well, one, you still live in California. You could move.
Well, maybe. I mean, I don't know, maybe. But then you go to other parts of the country and it's you don't get paid as much either.
Exactly. And that's the thing I've had to tell myself too. It's like, you won't be where you love it. You won't be around the jobs that are your passion and where you feel like you're called to, as far outside of, being just mom. Like, what are you called to outside of, like, how are you going to impact the world in other ways if you're called to do something? and you would be leaving that, and then you would be struggling there possibly because the pay is less, and the, you know, like, you don't really know. The answer isn't always just moving, but I have prayed many nights about what I'm supposed to do, and I never, it's just, I'm not sold on moving, and there are different places I would go, but I don't know that it's right now.
Great decision. And then there's other factors. There's social factors, and will your kids get along? Will they have friends? And like you said, the network that you have of friends here has been so important for you too.
Yeah. I mean, even moving to Antelope Valley, I was thinking maybe we should just move to Palmdale or Roseman, and those are far from Santa Clarita. I mean, it's not as far as it could be, but they'd still be losing community, and I don't know that we would get community there, you know, that understand.
You would too. I mean,
again?
And you would too. Your kids would lose community, and so would you.
Yeah, exactly. And it's, you know, every day is a decision. I have a video on my channel from a couple years ago when we were homeless, and I was talking about the struggle of staying in California and whether or not, and this was when I was looking at apartments and I was applying, and they were asking for all this money up front, and they were asking for you to make a certain amount above the rent, and it was just so frustrating. And I really thought, like, why am I still here? Like, why am I still here? And a lot of it at that time was my health, you know, because my health has been, hold on, this is going to be, my health has been something that I've needed to have my specific doctors. When I lived in Arizona, my health got way worse because I wasn't near my team of doctors, and doctors didn't know what to do with my health. And so I stay close to Cedars-Sinai Hospital because all my kidney team is there, my rheumatology doctors are there, like, you know, and I still, I mean, like yesterday, my nurse came to my house to give me an infusion. Like, it's not like I can just go to any state and find good care. It's, you don't know the care there.
I mean, talking about, you know, saying, oh, I'm this age and shouldn't I have things together? I mean, you've gone through a divorce, you're single, and you've had some serious health problems. That's really, really hard. You have a kid with special needs. I mean, that's a lot. It's a lot on your plate, and you're figuring it out though.
Yeah, I'm trying. I mean, I guess I am. I mean, most of my 20s, I was in and out of the hospital. I was sick. So I feel like I'm living my 20s right now, but with a preteen, you know. It's interesting, you know, and once in a while you get lonely, and you're like, is this going to be my story? Or, because, you know, most of the women in my family are single, and I don't want that to be my story. And that's a lot of the reason why I stayed pursuing my marriage even after divorce. You know, like, I kept going back to the same situation, trying to just walk in what I believed we could reconcile. And once I finally let that go, I found healing. I stopped being so toxic to myself. I stopped walking into toxic situations. And now it's always been all about my kids, but it's all about my kids in a different way. It's not all about my kids, I have to make my marriage work. It's all about my kids, I have to make myself healthy so I can be everything my kids need me to be. Like, I don't have that much time with them. Life is short, you know? I'm always going to be their mom, but they're not always going to, like, need me the way they do right now. Mm-hmm. And my dreams of everything, you know, telling stories through film or through TV or through music, like, that'll be there. And it may not be as easily accessible for me because I'll be in my 40s, but my kids will be grown, and they'll be healthy humans who have they have a holistic view on life, and they'll know how to take care of themselves and others, and they'll know how to love people and love themselves. And that's more important to me than pursuing all my dreams. So yeah, my life isn't really my own right now, but to me, that's worth it because I was blessed with them. I feel like they were given to me. I wasn't even supposed to have kids. Like, doctor said I'd never have kids.
Right, you have lupus.
Yes. And I was on chemotherapy for a lot of my life. My daughter, I got pregnant with her after a 6-month treatment on chemo.
Wow.
Like, yeah. And
crazy.
Yes, it is crazy. And I'm telling you, this is like super TMI. You can edit it out. But like, I missed one cycle with her, and the rest I was like like no, like you would think I was having a miscarriage every day. Like it was crazy. And she was in there totally growing, you know, little
Whole
by little.
pregnancy? You
23 weeks of a pregnancy, I missed one cycle. And the rest, I was like, I'm having a miscarriage, I think. And I go to the doctor
every day you bled?
every single day, the whole time. So if you, on my ultrasounds, you could see like a pocket of blood was sitting on top of the placenta. And that's what, and they didn't know why. They in hindsight, it could have been a medication I was on for the lupus that they kept me on. They thought it was fine.
Mm-hmm.
But I wasn't on that one with my son, and I got him to 36 and a half weeks.
Mm.
So, but yeah, I mean, that whole thing was all like, they're both miracle babies. Like my son, his placenta was detaching on his way out. So they're both, every child is a miracle, but like my life was not conducive to having children, but I still had them. So to me, that's where my life stands. It's like, they're my priority. I'm still young enough.
I got time.
It's hard to imagine, but I like, you know, the number is high in my opinion, but it's not high enough where I don't have a life after they are doing their own thing.
Yeah.
I can go pursue more hardcore what I feel called to do. But right now, it's about doing anything I can that involves them and that teaches them as I learn. If that makes sense.
It does. It does. Well, thank you so much for joining me. It was really, really good talk and very inspirational. It's cool to see that you're making it work, even though you've had so much going on.
Yeah, absolutely. I hope it helps somebody. I hope that they understand that they can. There's so many jobs out there that you can work from home. It might mean less sleep momentarily, like, but you can do it. I mean, yeah. Anything, you can do anything that if you feel called to do it, you can make it work and still be there for your kids. You just have to make a choice, and you set your priorities, you write them down, you set out your vision, you write it down, and you don't do anything that doesn't match the vision. If this thing that you want to do does not lead you towards your vision, then you don't do it. It's an automatic no.
I love it. I love it. That's really, really good advice. Hey, before we are done, what is your YouTube channel?
Oh, my YouTube channel is Angela Renee Chats. You should be able to see it on my name thing here, but it's my name, Angela Renee, and then Chats, like talking. And I think it's just no spaces and there's all together. And yeah, you should be able to find me.
Cool. Well, I'll link to it in the description.
Awesome. Yeah, and you'll see. Oh, there's my dog. You'll see a lot of other videos about my story, and hopefully those inspire as well.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Angela. Have a great day.
Thank you. You too. Bye.
So that's it. I hope you liked the interview. I hope it was inspiring. Please tell me what you think in the comments. If you have any questions, please ask those in the comments as well. If you liked the video, please click thumbs up. If you want to see more videos like this, please click the subscribe button and the notification bell next to it. In the meantime, happy homeschooling and have a great day.